We already got to see a lot of craziness in the AFC North on Thursday night football. Obviously, the Baltimore Ravens beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Injuries galore. Joe Burrow out for the year. Mark Andrews out for the year. And an opportunity opens even more for the Cleveland Browns to make their statement in the AFC North. Your pregame Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. I am Jeff Lloyd, your host of Locked On Browns, and this is your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Obviously, we got a lot going on here, and I always want to thank everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen, and of course, the everyday crowd, which just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I thank you guys, obviously, extensively. Join the everyday crowd by subscribing to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel, and of course, Locked On Browns is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcast. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. As we all saw last night, Joe Burrow's 2023 season over. Two AFC North quarterbacks out for the year in less than 48 hours. Mark Andrews, one of the most effective players for the Baltimore Ravens, he is out most likely for the rest of the season as well. Leaves a big opportunity here for the Browns Steelers on Sunday. Somebody is going to go in sole possession to second place, and that may be a golden ticket right now to get you to the NFL playoffs. Now, looking here, obviously it's Friday. We have our injury designations. So for the Browns, Marquise Goodwin and Juan Thornhill, unfortunately, out. Goodwin still not practicing after the concussion, so it's understandable. Juan Thornhill didn't even make it into a practice this week, so obviously that'll push Rodney McLeod into a starting role. Playing time most likely for DeAnthony Bell, playing time most likely for Ronnie Hickman as well in a big, big matchup, of course, with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dawand Jones declared himself good to go. He is, however, listed questionable. Michael Dunn working to come back from IR, 3 full practices in a row. So you have to think Michael Dunn is good to go. The question is, will we see tomorrow that the Browns did, in fact, activate him off injured reserve to the active roster? So certainly things to monitor. Joe Flacco was brought in for a workout today. There's no way Joe Flacco could be any use to the Cleveland Browns Sunday at home against the Steelers. So word is Joe Flacco went back home. The assumption is we'll see how it goes Sunday, see where the Browns are at. Do they bring in Joe Flacco? It's a tough pill to swallow because for Joe, I think if he's coming back, I think the assumption is he would like to play. If DTR has a good day on Sunday, there might not be a need. You got to keep in mind, Joe Flacco, it's an interesting guy for the Browns to bring in. Look, Joe Flacco is going to be able to throw a football for another 20 years. Mobility, it's not there. Joe is never the most mobile guy to begin with, obviously. So you would be banking on, obviously, the athleticism. I mean, I'm sorry, not the athleticism by any means whatsoever. The arm strength, the arm talent that Joe Flacco still possesses. So we'll see how that works out. But again, a lot of it probably, in my opinion, is going to be contingent on how the Browns look on Sunday. Because if Joe Flacco is leaving his family behind to get into another season, you would think Joe Flacco wants to obviously be playing. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, 3 players listed out. Minkah Fitzpatrick, out, safety. Keanu Neal, out, safety. Montravius Adams, defensive tackle, out as well. Keep in mind, Steelers also are out with their 2 inside linebackers are gone for the season as well. So there's some injuries to this Pittsburgh Steelers defense. No doubt about that. One of the interesting things and something I was debating is if it did look like Dawand Jones was coming back for the Cleveland Browns, who was going to start at left tackle this week? James Hudson obviously started at right last week. He's the swing guy. He's got familiarity with both positions. Jerron Christian, not been here very long, started last week, showed very well. As far as a pass blocker, his run blocking certainly could use a little work. So that meant if Dawand Jones is coming back, who's going to be the left tackle for the Cleveland Browns on Sunday this week against Pittsburgh Steelers? It looks like for now, Jaylen Christian will be your starter. That is what Coach Stefanski said. I agree with it from the standpoint of you're starting DTR, your rookie quarterback. And if you look at Jaylen Christian and you look at, obviously, James Hudson, the question there would be, who's the better pass blocker? Who's the better run blocker? Well, we know Hudson is the better run blocker. We know Christian is the better pass blocker. Granted, it's a small sample size with the Cleveland Browns. Jaylen Christian, of course, has some history with Bill Callahan. Both of them were with Washington together. So Christian is getting the starting nod. I personally agree with it because I think, if he's giving you the better opportunity in pass pro, that is what you need to do for DTR. You want to protect Dorian Thompson-Robinson the best you can. You don't want to put him in a bad position. The Browns already did that once to DTR this year. They certainly do not want to do that again to DTR. So that, for me, is why I'm more than okay with the move of Jaylen Christian being your starting left tackle on Sunday. Plus, the Browns have a nice little thing going here with the running game as far as, James Hudson being a quote, a blocking tight end, Nick Harris being your fullback. It can allow you to start to use that again. And that has been something that's been pretty helpful and pretty useful for this team at this point. So you have the opportunity to still use that. And, look, if there's any slip ups, you can put Hubbard in, you can put Hudson in. But, for Jaylen Christian, he's more comfortable out there. He had a good week last week. He's a little bit more athletic than James Hudson. And we know, and we're going to get to this here because this Pittsburgh D, does present, some mismatched nightmares for the Browns and just some things that they have overall difficulties with. But I'm actually looking very much forward to this game on Sunday. Coach Stefanski spoke today, obviously wants the fans in the seats. He wants a loud crowd. I know everybody's got probably some extra venom that they want to get out of their systems here. The Steelers crowds at Cleveland Browns Stadium is always going to bring out, a loud fan base from the Browns. But with the Nick Chubb news, obviously, and happening against Pittsburgh with Deshaun Watson being out for the season, you guys are going to be fired up going into this one. And now there's the opportunity to have sole possession of second place if you can pull off this victory Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I expect it to be loud. I expect it to be raucous. And, we're going to get into it. We're going to break it down a little bit more. We're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Obviously, we're going to talk Browns defense and some things that I'm looking at, as far as maybe some concern points from the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. It's time. You know what I'm saying? These weeks seem to go by the funniest thing is the NFL season goes by so fast. But it seems like we go from game day to game day, and it seems like it takes an eternity. Well, the eternity is over. Browns, Steelers, Sunday, 1 o'clock. And we're going to get to the Browns offense versus the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. But we just got to, go through a couple things here. I appreciate everybody sticking along. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. We are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on a 2 to 6 player stat projection, and you watch the winnings roll in. You want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz. You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second half, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. If you want to put together a Browns lineup for Sunday, DTR passing yards, 166.5. Jerome Ford, 54.5 on the ground, over under. Elijah Moore, 27.5, over under. Amari Cooper, 46.5, over under. David Njoku, 31.5, over under. By the way, other than DTR, every one of those guys had more yardage than that in the first matchup with the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com and use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Jeff Lloyd, we continue here. Your latest Locked On Browns, your pre-game Locked On Browns. Browns Steelers Sunday, 1 o'clock in Cleveland. Browns seeking a second straight revenge win after beating the Baltimore Ravens last week. Obviously, a lot of the AFC North got turned upside down on Thursday Night Football. Cincinnati is now without Joe Burrow. The Baltimore Ravens are now without Mark Andrews. Browns Steelers. This is a game for sole possession of second place. This is a big one Sunday. I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. And of course, the everyday crowd keeps getting bigger, and you're all a bunch of animals, and I love you so much. So my suggestion is to join the everyday crowd by subscribing to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And of course, Locked On Browns is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. Now, obviously, the biggest key to all of this on Sunday, and it's, I don't want to say it's the beginning, and maybe it is obviously the beginning of the DTR era, the Dorian Thompson-Robinson era. And it looks like with 8 to go, all DTR can do is lose this job. I think everybody seems excited. Everybody I've reached out to, they think that, the last, you got to figure it was week 4. And now we're week 11. So this has been about 2 months now for DTR. And, a lot of people that I was able to get some comments from, a lot of people who were able to message me back said maybe he needed that, because it's the old adage of you don't know what you don't know. And, DTR obviously was such a terrible situation, getting told at basically 10:45, 10:50 in the morning that you're going to be this team's starting quarterback, obviously in what was a big, big game against the Baltimore Ravens. And, went out there, and obviously the playbook had to be limited. The play calling had to be limited because there were things that were in the offense that were more geared to Deshaun Watson and not Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But now it's the kid's turn. It's the kid's chance. He's had it all week. He's been a different guy. He got a couple of snaps, obviously, in the Seattle game. But now it is Dorian Thompson-Robinson time. And this team has excelled in a couple of things offensively. They've learned how to run the ball out of shotgun, which is something that certainly suits Dorian Thompson-Robinson, something that certainly suited Deshaun Watson. It was something that Nick Chubb was going to have to get more acclimated with. Unfortunately, that is not the case. But it is something that certainly suits Jerome Ford. It certainly suits a guy like Pierre Strong. Kareem Hunt, you have him for those hammer and nail yards, the 3rd and 1s, the 2nd and 2 for 2nd and goal from the 2. So there's still ways to equate everybody into this. I've talked before, and I certainly talked about this, week 2 going into this matchup. 3-4 defenses are just a little bit of an issue for the Browns. You're talking about, obviously the edge rushers. In this case, obviously it's going to be Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt. They're usually lined up a little bit wider than your traditional 4-3 defensive ends. It requires a little bit more athleticism from your offensive tackles, as we all know. Jack Conklin, the Browns' most athletic tackle, out for the season. Jedrick Wills obviously struggled against Alex Highsmith in the one of the last plays of the Monday Night Football game, which led obviously to the strip sack that led to the TJ Watt touchdown. Dawand Jones, we all love him. He's an absolute monster, and he played great in week 2 in Monday Night Football. But when we're going to list all the positives, Dawand Jones, overall speed is not one of them. He's a very athletic guy for his size, but you're talking about, he's going to be most of the time, if he's blocking TJ Watt, he's probably got 95 to 100 pounds on TJ Watt. So, TJ Watt is obviously going to have an athleticism advantage against Dawand Jones. Again, I'm a big fan of, and I like the idea of starting Jerron Christian over James Hudson. I'd rather go and be more comfortable with the guy who's better in pass pro. Plus, it still allows me to use James Hudson as a blocking tight end. I can still use Nick Harris. And if you guys didn't notice, Nick Harris was actually put as a fullback / center on the Browns roster. So congratulations, Nick Harris. Maybe that is something you can use towards free agency at the end of the year. See if you get yourself a couple extra bucks there. But Nick Harris has really been doing a fantastic job in the limited role the Browns have been giving him as a pass blocker. Throwing the ball and DTR in general. I would suggest, if you guys remember Seattle, there were a lot of screens, right? They really tried to work that screen game against Seattle. I would not be surprised if that's something that you don't see again here. Maybe some of those same screens, but maybe done differently with different players as far as the receiving options. If that means you're going to get a couple of reps for Pierre Strong, I keep pushing that Pierre Strong train, right? But Jerome Ford, obviously, well-versed in the Browns passing game. You can do a lot of this stuff out of gun. Obviously, David Njoku had 61 yards after the catch last week, but only 58 yards total receiving. So you're trying to get the idea that the Browns are starting to understand and utilize, their yak ability, their rack ability. They've got the guys to do that. Elijah Moore, and this is a big one. Look, you've got to get something. You got to get some decent production out of Elijah Moore and Cedric Tillman. Look, Amari Cooper, if you guys all remember, went 7 for 90 in that Monday Night Football game against Pittsburgh Steelers. We weren't even sure if he was going to play. We weren't even sure if he was going to make the trip. And that was he was going to make the trip. He was dealing with the scar tissue stuff, obviously from his groin after the offseason surgery. And went out there, Monday Night Football, put up 7 for 90, and obviously didn't look any worse for wear. Joey Porter, I'm assuming he's going to go wherever Amari Cooper goes. The Browns got to find a way to eat with the other guys. Obviously, there's going to be different safeties out there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The rest of their cornerback room is certainly not playing as well as Joey Porter. And if you remember, in week 2, Joey Porter was still limited. The Steelers were still grazing him along slowly until they felt confidence. Joey Porter has played well. But look, Amari Cooper is one of the best in the NFL, a quietly untalked about top wide receiver in the NFL. So if anybody can give the Rook and hand the Rook his lunch or take the Rook's lunch, it is certainly Amari Cooper. So that's certainly, something that the Browns should be able to look and exploit. And if that's the case, then safety help's going to have to go to the Rook, who's covered Amari Cooper, which should open up things for David Njoku and obviously Elijah Moore and Cedric Tillman. These guys, you can't be wallflowers. You need these guys to be able to find a way to contribute, 45, 50 yards receiving. It's time. Elijah Moore, we know the ability is there. The Browns have struggled with getting him involved. Cedric Tillman, it's there. The willingness to block, the willingness to be physical. Let's start throwing the kid the dang ball. The kid can give you a chance at winning. You got to get involved. And obviously, there's that relationship between DTR and Cedric Tillman, former high school teammates, Bishop Gorman out in Nevada. So that is a relationship that doesn't have to be forced. That is intertwined. I mean, these guys have thrown a million balls to each other and now have an opportunity to make some big plays in Cleveland Browns Stadium wearing the white and orange for the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, Cam Hayward will be in this game. Wasn't in the first game Monday Night Football. And absolute look, I will rag on Pittsburgh Steelers all day long, but like you bring up the name Cam Hayward, it's like I got nothing. I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna bash a Hall of Famer? Cam Hayward is going to go to Canton one day. He is a great player. I just hope he's not a factor. The Steelers have 2 different inside linebackers. Neither of these guys played a lot of reps in the Monday Night Football game. One of them was just brought up from the practice squad. The Browns, they should be able to run the ball, and they need to run the ball. Obviously, it's always a rookie quarterback's best friend to have a successful running game. DTR, use his legs. Don't be afraid to let him use his legs. Wildly athletic. One thing I will close with DTR is, everybody remembers, go back to the combine last year. There was that second quarterback group. It was Anthony Richardson. It was supposed to be Bryce Young, didn't throw. It was C.J. Stroud. It was DTR. And you know what? We watched Anthony Richardson do some electric things, but you saw a guy who needed a lot of work. You saw C.J. Stroud just own the workout. But the second best quarterback in that group was Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Let's see if he can translate that into hopefully a big victory Sunday for the Cleveland Browns. I am Jeff Lloyd. We're going to keep it moving here. Your latest Locked On Browns. Stick around, kids. Are you hosting Browns Steelers on Sunday? Well, look, you don't want to get stuck on the grill. You don't want to get stuck in the kitchen. So you know what you need to do? And that's where these great folks come in. DoorDash. You can fire up an order, get 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. When you download the DoorDash app and you enter the code LOCK23, subject to change, terms apply. Why don't you go with Athens Pizzeria? Just get some pizzas in there. Get some sandwiches in there. Get some wings in there. Tell your friends. Get some coasters. Don't make a messy, stinking place. And just feed everybody. This way you get to watch the game and you don't necessarily have to host. All of your favorite restaurants and stores, from retail to grocery, are on the app. So you can shop everything you need to get game day ready. Get prepared before game day. Stock up on your favorite appetizers and order all your tailgate greats on DoorDash. Then get ready to watch your team win. Get $50 off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code LOCKED23. Subject to change, terms apply. That's 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code LOCKED23. Subject to change, terms apply. Jeff Lloyd, we're going to close it out here. Your latest Locked On Browns. I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen. And the Everyday Crowd, you guys are absolutely fantastic. Join the Everyday Crowd by subscribing to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And, of course, Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, we go to the Browns defense against Pittsburgh. And, obviously, you take, other than one play to George Pickens, Browns pretty much owned them. And now, if you guys remember, and I'm sure the everydayers do, going into week 2 in Monday Night Football, I told you that Jaylen Warren was the problem, not Najee Harris. Jaylen Warren, just one of these elusive backs, certainly has an Austin Eckler type game to him. He's quick, he's elusive, he can contribute in the passing game. Still a guy that, gives me a little bit of nightmares as far as somebody that the Browns absolutely have to keep their eyes on. That is a linebacker responsibility, whether it's JOK, Anthony Walker, Sione Takitaki. You got to be on Jaylen Warren. The guy's got some scoots. There's no question about that. We did not see Diontae Johnson in the first game of Monday Night Football in week 2. Diontae Johnson has been back. He's been producing. At times, it's kind of caused a little bit of an issue because Kenny Pickett has not been able to get George Pickens involved as much as George Pickens would be like. And look, I don't have an issue with George Pickens. I was a wide receiver. I want 37 balls thrown to me every game. So I don't ever want to see the ball thrown to everybody else. So I understand George Pickens. And I think the thing is, George Pickens, there is a high ceiling there for this player. And I think the issue is right now is the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there are a lot of jokes on social media right now that Pittsburgh Steelers now have the second best quarterback in the division, with Deshaun being out, obviously with Joe Burrow being out. I got to be honest with you. Come Sunday, the Browns could have the second best quarterback in the division. I'm not sold on Kenny Pickett. I just think, I don't think Pittsburgh trusts him enough. And I think that, Kenny Pickett has his own issues as far as what he's comfortable with and what he thinks he can do as opposed to what he truly can do. And it becomes a lot of check down Charlie with Kenny Pickett. And you want to do that against his Browns defense, that's fine. But you want to know, who's going to have the time to check down when it's Myles Garrett, when it's Darius Smith, when it's Agbanaya Okoronkwo. And now that you are getting a consistent pass rush up the middle from the defensive tackles, whether it's Dalvin Tomlinson, whether it's been Maurice Hurst, who's been consistent all season. Shelby Harris has put together some really, really nice weeks. Now, Dawand Thornhill not being here, it does hurt a little bit. Obviously, Pickens with his vertical ability, Diontae Johnson with his vertical ability. But Rodney McLeod, could you imagine having a better scenario than the Browns right now? Man, Juan Thornhill can't play. That's all right. We're going to put out Rodney McLeod, longtime veteran in this league, was a fantastic player last year. Obviously, he's been solid and clutch for the Browns to this point. That's a nice little, situation to be in when your big free agent target Juan Thornhill's unable to go. But you can bring in a guy with a proven track record of the safety position like Rodney McLeod. It does mean that you're going to get reps for the Anthony Bell. Probably means there's going to be some reps for Ronnie Hickman, and these guys got to be ready to go. But the defense has to be the hammer here. And, I know Jim Schwartz talked about it during the week, and, I don't want to put any more on my guys and, try to be like, try to just, look, if you ask more from them, there's a chance maybe you get less from them. And I don't disagree with Jim Schwartz in that scenario. No, not one way whatsoever. But it isn't a question of asking them more. It's a question of just asking you, can you guys keep doing what you've been doing? The Browns should have never lost this first game against Pittsburgh Steelers. The game, Browns gave up 2 touchdowns from the offense, obviously, to the defense. Browns were still winning the game late. This is a game the Browns should have never, ever lost. Jerome Ford has already shown the Pittsburgh Steelers that he's not scared of them. He's already shown the Pittsburgh Steelers that he has the ability to succeed against them. Amari Cooper, we saw the success. Moore had some. Of course, David Njoku had some. But this team is feeling it right now. And this team needs to rally around Dorian Thompson-Robinson. It's just the way it is. He is your guy. And even after last night, guess what? There's already one team out of the AFC North. And I told you this team was going to be out anyway. I didn't think Joe Burrow was going to be out for the year. Bengals fans, I am sorry. Joe Burrow is a fantastic player, and it's a tough pill to swallow. But this is the NFL, and these things happen. The Browns will look to have a big time taking advantage of moment against Pittsburgh. It's here. Go get second place off for yourselves. And then you get to that cupcake little schedule that you have left of 7 games. And there should be a path for the Cleveland Browns to either A, make it to the playoffs, or B, even win the AFC North. So go get it done. My prediction, Cleveland Browns 27. Pittsburgh Steelers 20. Browns should go to 7-3. Browns should be solo in second place of the AFC North come Sunday. I am Jeff Lloyd, and I appreciate everybody, as you guys know, for making Locked On Browns your first listen each and every day. The everyday crowd, and I love you guys so much. Join the everyday crowd by subscribing to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Of course, it's always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. For your second listen, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7. And I've been peeking in, and I love the way the guys have the setup. Last Monday night, you had the crossover episode. It was Broncos-Bills. Right after that, you had the Bills pregame show. Right after that, you had the Broncos pregame show. We are funneling episodes 24/7, 365. And we do this because of you guys. You guys keep coming out. You keep listening. You keep giving us your time. We're going to do everything we can here at Locked On to give you guys the best possible product that we can. All that being said, this has been your daily delivery of all things dog pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.